The evening of January 30th, 2000, a wave of 100,000 cubic meters of slurry, approximately 100 tons of cyanide, and an unspecified amount of heavy metals were released from a mining exploration dam in Baia, Romania. The accident contaminated rivers along Romania, Hungary, the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, and Bulgaria, which resulted in death of tens of thousands of fish and wildlife, as well as poisoned drinking water. The mine was operated by Aurul, a joint venture between Esmeralda Exploration Limited of Australia and the Romanian National Company for Precious and Non-Ferrous Metals. The company applied cyanidization technology that was used for the first time in Romania. Needless to say, the implementation of cyanide in the mining industry is a controversial process. Cyanide bonds exceptionally well with gold and silver, which allow a cost-effective extraction of faint trace of precious metal from residual ores. However, cyanide is a widely known toxic compound. After exposure, cyanide quickly enters the bloodstream and prevents cells from properly utilizing oxygen, resulting in cell death. The Baia accident developed from a combination of poor design on the holding pond and unusual weather conditions. Nonetheless, a concern is also attributed to the social-political pressure in Romania that pushed the government toward desperate measures to acquire foreign capital. The present video reviews the environmental and health effects associated with the accident and discusses the ramification, prevention alternative, and the current status of the affected areas.
The incident occurred mainly because of a design flaw in the dam containing the hazardous chemicals. Although it was pointed out to management that the dam was not designed correctly, the company decided to ignore the warnings and did not do anything to improve the dam. During the winter, as more and more snow fell onto the dam, it eventually caused it to collapse, leading to the spillage of chemicals. A wide variety of things could have been done to have prevented this tragedy. If the company had acted and heeded the warning of the design flaw, they could have easily taken the necessary preventative measures. One important thing that they should have done was to clear the snow from piling up onto the dam by having workers shovel it away. Another preventative measure that could have been taken to prevent snow accumulation is to use natural de-icers to cover the surface of the dam. The company could have also taken more responsibility to convert cyanide into a less toxic form such as cyanate. They could have done this via the alkaline chlorination method and could have monitored the cyanide levels using monitor sensors.
The exact amount of pollutants contained in the spill is difficult to find because clean water from upstream flushed the cyanide plume away from the side of the spill. Additionally, the area of the spill was known for chronic pollution and consistently surpassed the permissible limits of heavy metals prior to the incident. Another source of conflicting information can be attributed to the local authorities. The Romanian government reported an insignificant amount of fish deaths in the river, whereas Yugoslavian authorities estimated over 1,000 tons of dead fish. This is suspicious because the Romanian government partly owned the company and responsible for the spill. Most sources estimate 100,000 meters cubed of cyanide and toxic metals were leaked into the Somes and Tisa River, killing all wildlife near the spill and affecting up to 62 different species of fish. Despite the inconsistent records, one thing is clear: the lasting environmental impacts as a result of the spill. The phytoplankton in the water were able to recover within a few days, while fish species repopulated much slower. Even 2 years after the accident, local fishermen claimed their catch size was reduced to 20% of the size prior to the spill.
Although there was no immediate loss of life during the event, the potential for several long-term health effects remained. In the local village, shallow private wells were used for drinking water. A month after the event, these wells were found to have high concentrations of heavy metals. However, these private wells did not have a detectable level of cyanide. The source of the wells was also tested. The pond was found to have high concentration levels of heavy metals and of cyanide. These private wells are not monitored or regulated, and the contamination could cause long-term health effects in the community. Further down the river, additional testing was done by the United Nations Protection Program, which found the concentrations to be significantly lower. Rivers in Hungary and Yugoslavia were also tested for cyanide. Both countries reported concentrations that were well below the required standards. Cyanide is acutely toxic rather than chronically toxic, and has a LD50 for ingestion of 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Additionally, for contact with skin, cyanide has a LD50 of 100 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Although acute cyanide poisoning is more common and severe, chronic cyanide poisoning can still be an issue. Long-term exposure can lead to headaches, nausea, vomiting, anxiety, and chest pain. However, humans and other mammals can tolerate cyanide in sublethal doses for long periods of time. With acute and lethal doses of cyanide, the body is unable to use oxygen and it starves the cells of energy. Symptoms of cyanide poisoning include confusion, shortness of breath, headaches, coma, abdominal pain, and seizures. During acute poisoning, the skin will turn red or pinkish, and the onset of the other symptoms will happen quickly.
As a result of the environmental and health effects of the cyanide contamination, there were large ramifications on the biological life in many rivers. Not only were there large environmental impacts on the aquatic life and nearby life, but to this day, mining, the cause of the cyanide spill, remains a heated debate between the Romanians and mining companies. Most accessible gold had already been extracted in Romania by the 1990s, with 215 toxins being released by these mining companies by the time mining became more difficult with current technologies. In the late 1990s, Romania experienced a new gold rush where mining companies were able to extract more gold and silver from old sites. Baia Mare started mining in the spring of 1999, and before the end of the year, there were already 2 leaks in their highly dangerous cyanide pipelines. Rosia Montana Gold Corporation plans to revisit a 2,000-year-old mining settlement 7 times the size of the Baia Mare project. Projects like these to revisit and extract more gold and silver from large mining settlements spark large controversy in the surrounding areas, leaving locals hesitant to the actions of the mining corporations. Despite the voice of the people, larger corporations are being approved under European Union's strict environmental laws, leaving the locals questioning whether they are safe or not. Although the ramifications, environmental effects of the spills were tremendous, mining began a few months after the incident, where in 2005 the EU banned 85% of the site. Since then, there have been large efforts to continuously ban mining in Romania, but the bans are continually rejected. In May of 2010, the EU Parliament banned cyanide use across the European Union.
Little is known about the long-term environmental and health impacts of the incident, beside those predicted in the environmental and health effect sections previously in the video. Mining remains an issue for Romanians and the mining companies. Following the spill, there were several government organizations that tried to step in and make up for what had happened. One of these organizations was the World Wildlife Fund, known as WWF, of Hungary. A cooperative program between WWF Hungary and the Danube Carpathian Program, otherwise known as DCP, was put in place to ensure that a better relationship develops between nature conservation and economic interests. Starting in 2014, Romanian citizens called for a ban on cyanide mining. This did not sit well with Romanian officials. and they responded by forcing the media to present the protesters as unemployed vagrants, drug addicts, or stooges of Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros. The goal of the protesters was to not only put an end to cyanide mining, but to also add Rosia Montana, a community of 16 villages in the South Apusini Mountains, to the country's list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. In 2016, Vlad Alexandrescu, Minister of Culture, not only promised to end cyanide gold mining, but also declared Rosia Montana a historical site of national interest.
In conclusion, the catastrophe that occurred at Baia Mare was a preventable event. Undoubtedly, poor design and negligence allowed a toxic chemical and other metals to enter main water sources in high concentrations. These river systems that support wildlife and mankind alike were contaminated, and entire populations of aquatic life were greatly affected. Yet, no human deaths can be directly contributed to the spill, and the long-lasting effects are unclear due to a lack of transparency within the responsible company and the government. Despite the lack of governmental support, determined Romanian residents have fought censorship and false representation to end the dangerous mining that has left them vulnerable for decades. With these new policies and government cooperation, this hope may be attainable and will hopefully prevent future tragic spills of the deadly chemical.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark cold river, and the endlessness that you fear. You are pulled from the poison of your silent reverie. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here. So tired of the straight line, and everywhere you turn, there's cyanide and heavy metals at your back. But now you're in the arms of the angel. Fly away from here, from this dark cold river, and the endlessness that you fear. You are pulled from the poison of your silent reverie. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here. Yes, you're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here.